Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to 1 Million Cups. Grab your coffee, grab a seat, and let's get this thing started. My name is Kyle. I'm one of your community organizers. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. This is Caitlin and Courtney and John and Billy, your other community organizers. Please grab us and say hello. We are so excited to meet all of you. Thank you to the Fort Osage Career and Technical Center for joining us this morning. It's awesome that you guys came out. If you haven't yet, be sure to go to your app store and download the 1 Million Cups app. Log in. That'll give you the opportunity to see who else is here this morning and also provide feedback to our presenters, which is super awesome and super important. I am excited to introduce you to one of our expert panelists this morning, Scott Helm. Go ahead and say hello.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Scott Helm. I'm the Associate Director of the Midwest Center for Nonprofit Leadership. I lead up our social entrepreneurship activities and lead one of Levitt Challenge, which is a social entrepreneurship challenge here in Kansas City. So glad to be here.
Awesome. We're glad you're here. Can you raise your hand if this is your first time at 1 Million Cups? Excellent. Lots of new faces out there. Here's what's going to happen. So we will open the floor to our first entrepreneur. They'll talk for about 6 minutes. We'll have our expert panelists ask questions, and then you'll have the chance to ask questions too. So be sure to listen closely and be ready with those great business questions as well. I see our second expert panelist, Grant Gooding, just came in the door. Good morning, Grant. Thanks for joining us. Let's have a very warm welcome for our first presenters this morning, FreightView. Their goal is to connect businesses with their existing carrier relationships to make the process of shipping freight incredibly simple. Please welcome Eric and Megan.
Hey everybody, welcome. Thanks for joining us today. So we're going to talk a little bit about FreightView. So my name's Megan Orth, and I'm the director of FreightView.
And I'm Eric Dorsey. I'm in charge of product.
So if you think about where FreightView came from, I don't know if any of you guys have heard about FreightQuote in town. They're off at 435 and State Line. So I had been at FreightQuote, and the owner of FreightQuote at the time, we had this vision of there's software that we can build for shippers that's going to allow them to move their freight more efficiently. So we went down to the basement of FreightQuote, put orange cones up. There were 14 of us, and Eric and team started building a product. And then we actually spun off from FreightQuote and went and started our own startup in downtown Overland Park. There were 14 of us that went over. We got funding, started our own company. And then in January of 15, we actually were purchased by C.H. Robinson, which is a large Fortune 200 company. So now we are still a startup, but we are owned by a very, very large corporation. So it's been a really exciting journey. We've been able to see both the startup world and now kind of understanding how big public companies work and how we keep that startup feel inside of a big company. So what is FreightView? So if you think about FreightView, people that are shipping freight, right? They're shipping product, they're making product, they're going and selling, moving it to their warehouses, or they're moving it to their consumer, or they're moving it to a business. And so what happens is they would come and they would say, okay, I need to move this pallet. And what the shipper would do is they'd say, okay, I'm going to go to this website, and I'm going to go to this website, and I'm going to go to this website, and then I'm going to see which rate was the best, and then I'm going to go back to that website. I'm actually going to dispatch that shipment. So what we were actually able to create is an interface that pulls in all their carrier rates into one system and allows them to efficiently book. So that's kind of what the problem we were solving, is using technology to help move shipments. And so when we started FreightView, so I'm sure not many of you are freight experts in the room here, but when you think about freight, there's 3 modes that you can do over the road. So right, it's in a truck. So you have a full truckload that's going to fill up a whole truck. You've got less than truckload, which is called LTL, and you're going to fill up a portion of a truck. And then you've got a small pack or parcel, which is FedEx and UPS. So we chose to go right at the LTL market, which again is less than truckload. And we started at that market. So what FreightView was in the LTL, so here's a couple screenshots. We have a really, really sticky product. We're growing like crazy. We got a 99% retention rate. And what this allows is see how all your carrier rates pull on one screen, and then after the fact you can track, all your information about your shipments all in one easy to use interface. And so Eric and I spend a lot of time talking to our customers and understanding what additional pain points they have. And what we kept hearing is, hey, we love that you guys are doing less than truckload, but what about truckload? What about parcel? We want all of our shipments inside of FreightView. So Eric and team have spent the last year building out what we call our truckload product, which we call a spot quote product.
So the market for truckload is a little different than less than truckload. Less than truckload is about a $36 billion market. Truckload's about $676 billion. So a couple orders of magnitude larger. There's roughly 300 carriers or so in the less than truckload market, and truckload there's 200,000. So most of the less than truckload carriers actually have APIs that we interface with to pull back your rates, book shipments, generate bills of lading and stuff like that. None of the truckload carriers do. And most of our customers, because of their size, have pre-negotiated rates with their truckload or with their less than truckload carriers, which means they have some shipping volume and they've worked with their carriers to figure out what the rates are going to be. For truckload, that's different. Most of the time of the day, they send out emails to their carriers to get a rate or a broker, and then pull those back, and it's just an email distribution list. So we talk to customers to understand how they're doing that process today, and this is what we came up with. We made it really, really easy to get it set up, so they just take their emails instead of having to go through a list of 200,000 carriers. They just take their email list, drop it into FreightView, and we figure out their carriers for them. And then we basically embed the messaging into FreightView, so all of that communication and stuff is tied to the shipment that they were talking about. And the rates, they can choose the rate and book it just like they would a normal shipment in FreightView. And so this is what our customer looks like. Small and medium-sized businesses, usually they're going to be doing one or more truckload shipments per week to find the value in our software. And then they're currently picking up the phone and sending out email blasts to manage this freight, and that's a lot of work. So competition is kind of change management. This is the way we've always done it. Customers might have a more expensive or complicated transportation management system in place, or they could be outsourcing to a brokerage to handle all this for them. They just don't want to think about it. Our competitive advantage is that we're focused entirely on the software. We're not selling you those rates. It's quick and easy to set up. You can literally be quoting and booking in 5 minutes. I don't think this has ever been possible before. We give visibility to everyone in your organization. It's easy to use and learn. There's no training required, and we're neutral. We don't care who you ship with. So kind of going to market with this, we launched it about a month ago, and now we're trying to figure out basically how it's going to affect our business. So how's it going to affect our pricing? How's it going to affect our sales strategy? And then what new features are customers going to need as we continue to grow? Those are kind of big questions going forward for us. We're FreightView. Thanks.
Thank you both. We'll turn it over to our expert panel for the first round of questions.
Yep. So you said that you kind of came upon this from your existing customer base. What percent of those existing customers, because you quoted some numbers up there, the 676 billion, obviously they're not all your customers. So what percent of your existing customers are doing the LTL as well as they want this other?
The other side of the product, about 50%.
50%?
Yep. So we're selling. So what's been an interesting challenge for us is we had a very core product, right, that flocked all of our customers to us. And now we're trying to upsell our current customer base, which is a whole new set of problems that we have, but it's kind of a fun challenge to go in, because that's what the beauty of a SaaS model is, right? You get a customer in, and then over time, you try to increase their lifetime value of that customer.
And where's your margin on this? right? So you're not the shipping company.
That's right.
Are you charging just a premium, like a fee of some kind?
Yep.
That
So it's a monthly fee. So it's just
Oh, it's
like
a monthly
Netflix.
fee.
Yep. It's just like Netflix, where based on your shipping volume, you get into a tier, and then your credit card gets hit every month.
It's not a per shipment transaction or anything like that. So it's just typical SaaS.
So help me understand it, if this is a bolt-on software SaaS or if this is an enterprise system.
It would. It's probably not enterprise. It's probably not going to be developed enough for an enterprise yet. However, for our existing customer base that's doing less than truckload, we think it's a really good solution. We just launched the ability to basically use this standalone last week. So it is now, you can use this separately. You don't have to have your LTL within FreightView. So kind of where we're going, we're trying to slowly build up market to encompass more and more of these needs from our shippers. So our smaller shippers, we handle more and more of their kind of activity around freight as we kind of grow. That's kind of the idea.
Okay, so because this is a fragmented market, right?
Correct.
Which is super challenging.
Yep.
And
Very
so,
challenging.
yeah, so you have to have something that's sticky. What do you have here that's sticky?
Good software.
Well, luckily, I'm sure nobody else says that, right? So what is your hook? What is the objective hook?
So if you think about the TMS market, and that's the business that we're in, it's for large enterprise customers. It's really expensive. There's lots of implementation. It costs a lot of time and money and resources to actually implement that into your company, where FreightView is the first in the market to actually go out there and say, hey, you can get online and you can start using this within less than 24 hours. And there's no implementation, there's no contract, you get a 30-day free trial. That's what sets us apart from the competition out there.
So pre-FreightView, basically what you do for a comparative system is you go to your carriers and ask for your tariff. And then you have people in the background uploading those tariffs. And so that was a very manual process, and every year they change. So that's like, $100,000 in person hours right there just to manage the software for you. So we made it possible for small business to have access to
Okay, yeah, so that makes sense. So I was going to say, so isn't your target market small fleets?
So no, it's actually, it would be more, so LTL is national carriers. There's, around, we have a majority of them, but a couple hundred. And so they all have the technology that allows us to connect within here. So it is more of the national carriers. So our customer base ships daily, and they have contracts in place with all their carriers. So it's the national carriers. And then as we get into the spot quoting tool, it could be small fleets, it could be a mom and pop. Again, the truckload market is really fragmented, and it's challenging to communicate with them. So that's why we built this tool.
It's going to get worse. So if you have something that those OOs can use, you can sell the hell out of this thing to them, especially because it's a SaaS model, and they don't have servers, right?
So this just works on top of email, basically. It's very, there's nothing special.
Good. That's all I have. I think you guys did a great presentation. I think you guys have something really good going.
Thank you.
Can you real quick talk about what is your sales strategy? I mean,
Yeah.
because the market is fragmented. I mean,
Yes.
I'm just thinking, you can't just be sitting back waiting for people to find you on the internet.
No, you can't. So we spend a lot of time on our sales process. So we actually we specialize our sales team. So we are owned by C.H. Robinson. They have 6,000 sales reps on the phone every day. So we have one person dedicated to educating all those sales reps and getting referrals in that way. Carrier reps, so the carriers we were talking that we connect with, we've got another person that focuses on that channel. They send a lot of customers our way. Customer referrals is another huge lead source for us, as well as we do digital, we do retargeting, we do email drips. We have tons of leads lists that we're constantly marketing to as well.
All right, we're going to turn it over to questions from the audience. If you have any, please get your hands up, and we will start right up front.
Hi, great idea. I think I know nothing about freight. So, can you describe what you do if I'm a potential customer in one sentence or a simple phrase?
Yes, we are going to save you time and money when you're shipping your freight. We're going to give you a system that allows you to execute the shipment through Freightview.
Okay, lots of semicolons in there.
Yeah, that's right. I can never do anything in one sentence.
So you talked about how people do it by sending out email blasts or calling up people and so forth. Is that the only competition you have?
Yeah, there is another, in our LTL space, we do have one other competitor out there that came into the market about a year ago called Cubics. So besides that, really our competitors are change management and then the brokers. So all the big 3PLs out there.
So you talked about modes, and I'm used to thinking about modes as different types of transportation systems like freighters and air freight and so forth.
Yep.
Do you have plans to move into those spaces as well?
As those carriers' technology improves, yes, the spot quote tool we've built opens us up to all the different types: intermodal, freight, ocean, air, all of them.
And I assume you only do domestic. Okay, thank you.
Like Megan alluded to earlier, we talk to our customers a lot, and whether we go into ocean or air is mostly a function of whether our customers ask for it or not.
Question in the center.
I love your product. I'm in a similar situation. I write software in the logistics industry here in Kansas City.
Yeah.
And just last week, I decided to go off on my own. My product is on a different angle on where you took. My question is, did you have concerns about FreightQuote's response to you spinning off, like with non-competes or, taking their customers?
No, so Tim Barton, who founded FreightQuote, is huge entrepreneurial, and his whole idea was we would never be able to build Freightview inside of FreightQuote. So it's the whole
Innovator's dilemma.
yeah, to where he was in full support of it, and he owned the company. He said, "Come on, 14 people, let's go try this out." So yeah, I fundamentally believe in that too. You'll just never get priorities with IT, with all your shared services. If you have a really good idea, you just got to go over in the corner and start building it.
Question on your left.
Have you ever considered setting up a reseller agreement with existing brokers?
Well, we're owned by the world's largest broker, so we'll probably just have to keep working with them right now. But yeah, we've talked about reseller programs as well. Usually more with the freight consultants right now. That's been a good angle for us.
So you mentioned that you're owned by the world's largest broker. Do you have any lessons for startups and entrepreneurs for working with big corporations? Like, what have you learned about that environment?
Yeah. Do you want me to take that, or you want to go?
I'll chime in.
Okay. Yes, I have a lot of advice for people on that. You have to have thick skin, because when you are going to corporate, they're going to say, how are you going to make money? How are you, right? Because these are big companies that make lots of money. And so you really have to sell on the vision and be really passionate about what you're doing. And when you're going to be told no a ton of times, you just have to keep proving yourself, keep showing your results, keep communicating and telling them what you're doing, and they'll eventually buy in and they'll get it. But it's a lot of hard work and a lot of thick skin.
I think communication's key.
Yep.
And then, they have a ton of experience and they know a lot of the nuances in this industry. So we view them as a resource. So our team goes and talks to them, asks them questions about how they solve problems, and then we come back and try and figure out how to solve that problem for our customers and our context, because our shippers are significantly different than the ones they care about, because they want to make, a whole bunch of money on every customer, and we want to build long-term relationships with all these customers. So,
I
yeah.
think it's a good point.
So, how long were you around before you were bought by CM Robinson and
April, May, June, July.
Not very long.
Five,
okay.
six
So
months.
that leads to my second question, which is
Yep. So we
from the
launched in
entrepreneur
April.
perspective, why go so quick?
We didn't really have a choice at that point.
'Cause-
FreightQuote was being sold, and it's been a great. It's actually been really great for us because, to your point earlier about the fragmented market and trying to sell to that, having the resources of Robinson behind us has really been able to scale our company and grow it fast.
Okay, and the only thing that potentially alarms me about, not about your idea, but about potential competition, if you only have one competitor now and you're profitable, how long before the market becomes saturated with either these own shipping companies creating models that are similar or other people creating models that are similar?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a risk, but again, what we've built took a long time to build and is really complex. Like you say, it's like the iceberg, right? It's going to take someone a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of software to get to where we are today.
So every broker out there more or less has, something that checks the boxes of what FreightView does. They all have a software offering on top of their brokerage services, but they're selling their rates, and so the priorities there kind of get intertwined. So we do have competition. It's just
Indirect
our
competition.
customers realize that they're trying to get you to use their rates, whereas we don't care. Like, we just use our software.
So you brought up something that I wanted to address. SaaS models particularly are obsessed with feature matrices, right? That's not how people buy, though. So what are you saying that are getting people to buy? Because you're ahead of the market, right? Like, so you have everything going your direction. You already have the APIs. So how are you going to capitalize on that? Because your job, essentially, at this point, is just to create barriers to entry,
Exactly.
right?
Yep.
Gobble up, especially some of those small carriers that'll be loyal. How are you going to do that?
So maybe I'm not understanding your question.
How are you going to create an emotional barrier to entry when inevitably all these copies come up, and they can write software, right? They can get it done pretty quick, and it doesn't have to be robust. And your software can be better by every measurement, but that doesn't come off on a website when people are making decisions.
Right.
Yeah, so the speed of our execution, we keep executing, we keep talking to customers, and that feedback loop, keeping it fast, is one of the barriers to entry, and keep improving, right? So we try and reimagine these things and solve the problems that people aren't really looking at yet. We think that.
Let's talk about that, because you hit on a key point.
Yeah.
You have to change. You're not fighting somebody away from another competitor.
No.
You have to change the narrative in the market.
Yep.
Right?
Brand awareness. It's creating the new category.
Okay, so how much of your gross revenue are you spending on marketing and sales?
Less than 10% right now.
That's too low.
I know.
Question in the center.
So following on the gentleman's comment just a moment ago about making sure that you're keeping that emotional change with your clients.
Yeah.
Is there a reason you chose to go with just a single month pay model versus some sort of a subscription model, 2-3 years, so you can actually better predict your revenue and really hang on to those clients?
Yep, so the reason we've stuck with the monthly is because, again, to your point earlier about the change management, the whole new category out there, to get people hooked in, we have a 99.2% retention rate. So we have not been concerned about that. If that retention rate or that churn starts to move, then we could reevaluate saying, okay, we need to extend this out to more annual contracts. And again, when you think about our cost of acquisition, it takes less than 24 hours to get someone set up. So we do like to offer that 30-day trial, get them using it. Once someone's in trial, we have a 70% close rate on that. So that's really been our model, and we just watch those metrics, those SaaS metrics, on a daily basis and see as they start to move.
I'd say the monthly model incentivizes us to basically align our value with the customers better.
Yeah.
We're worried about losing those customers every month, and we also don't have the the cash flow problem that most people, do annual contracts to get that cash up front. We have Robinson. They have lots of cash.
So you had talked about the three different sorry, in the back.
Oh, I was like-
Hey, what's up? You talked about the three different types of truckloads, and you decided to focus on the LTL, the less.
Yes, less than truckload.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
That had the much smaller market than some of the others. So why decide to go after the smaller market? I know you had a few points about better API integration, et cetera, but what ultimately made you go after the LTL market instead of everything?
Carrier technology. I mean, their technology is there, so it can work with this platform. And that's where we created that stickiness. And then our business model over time is you get all the data, you become really powerful with the carriers, and then you can expand to other modes. But we know LTL really well, and that's where we chose to go. You got to start somewhere and work.
FreightQuote was really focused on LTL.
Yep.
So, I'm sorry. So to that point, how much of the decision to go away or add to LTL was the fact that it's hard to acquire new clients. You had 50% of your clients saying they wanted something else. So how much of it was just that you're serving the same client group? And then my second question to that is, what's next? Right? Because you mentioned Netflix earlier. Netflix started out by sending people videos in the mail.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
People think of Uber as a car service, but that's not how Uber started.
Right.
So how do you keep what's the innovativeness of FreightView? Because my guess is that it's always going to be easier to continue to provide services to the people you have versus to continue to acquire a bigger share of the market.
Yeah, I look at that too, though. Also, our customer profile for an LTL is 5 to 25 LTL a day using multiple carriers, blah, 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 right? We have that, we know that customer market of LTL, but every time we add a new mode, our net just gets bigger and bigger. So maybe they don't do as much LTL, but they do a lot of truckload, or maybe they just do truckload. And so you're just expanding your market base every time you add new features, every time you add a new mode base.
So not having a specific feature is a really big deal for us, because that means they can't execute certain shipments of theirs, part of their daily workflow on FreightView. So that's a huge deal breaker. So like just not having something is like shit.
Question up front.
So for people who are using it to ship 6 to 10 times a month, how much time are they really saving with your?
So we don't, those people, so you really have to be shipping daily and we also sell for people that are good fits, right? So if someone comes to us and says, I'm shipping 6 times a month, we're gonna say, you're probably not gonna be a fit for FreightView, and move on to the next one.
Before they stop you, do you guys need money?
No.
Oh, that's right. You got a corporate backing. My bad.
But we're here to talk about other people that are doing startups, because we have a lot of experience in it. So.
Awesome. Our closing question, what can we as a community do to help you?
So our ask is, if you know anyone that needs help with their freight, send them our way.
Thank you.
Okay, time for Mug Club. So if you've been here 10 or more times, please raise your hand. Put it down if you've already gotten a mug.
No one? Everybody's gotten a mug already? Okay, let's switch it around. If it's your first time here, raise your hand.
Oh
cool. Yeah, well, I'm gonna give it to the girl right here in front. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're here at 1 Million Cups today?
I'm here with my class. It's a e-studies program. We do entrepreneurial studies, and we came here to listen to you guys and give us an idea about what we might want to do with our future.
Awesome. Well, welcome to Mug Club. You're welcome.
There we go. Yeah, there we go. Okay, the audience connection question this week is, raise your hand if you're looking for a job in Kansas City. If you're currently looking for a job. There we go. Awesome. Well, if you are, check out Startland News' job board for job postings. And if you have any questions, Kyle's your man. He knows. Okay, and then Courtney's going to tell us she has an announcement.
I do. How many of you are planning on coming out to the American Royal Barbecue Friday night over Labor Day weekend? Anybody? September 1st? Okay, well, 1 Million Cups is a community sponsor of the AR Tech Barbecue Tent. So once you get into the Royal, please stop by and see us at the tent. It's going to be a great, large, fun party, but you do need to register in advance. So if you guys are interested in stopping by, stuff has gone out through our newsletter yesterday, and then it's also up here on the PowerPoint. If you have any questions, please come find me, but you need to register by this Friday. So hope to see you there.
My friend Kusal has an awesome opportunity for young entrepreneurs, so listen closely, guys.
Just a quick show of hands. Who here is a junior or senior in high school? That's a good response. So, hi guys, my name's Kasal. I just graduated from Blue Valley North this year, and also from the Young Entrepreneur Program, Kansas City, which was started by Sandy and Christine Kemper of C2FO. Basically, what the program is you get a 2-month internship into 2 Kansas City startups. You can see from my shirt, I was at Bloom and Dimensional Innovations. This is a fantastic experience where they pay you $4,000 for both of the months and a $5,000 college scholarship. This is one of the most exciting opportunities I've ever had to experience, and we're starting to get more and more kids to be enrolled in this right now. It's very competitive, but don't let that deter you. If anything, it should inspire you because you want to take a risk, you want to be part of the top. So applications will be opening soon at yepkc.org. That's yepkc.org. I'm sticking around here for after all the stuff is over, so I think I'm running out of the time for my plug. So if you got any questions, just come talk to me. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks. All right, our second presentation is Mavuno. They empower local leaders in Eastern Congo to end the extreme poverty through grassroots entrepreneurship and enterprise. Help me welcome Alex Campbell.
Hi. Good morning, everybody. How you doing? Great. So, candidly, this is going to be a little bit of a different presentation than this community might be used to because we are a nonprofit working in Eastern Congo. However, I'm going to start with the same statement that every company and organization that graces this stage starts with, which is, we've got a problem. However, the problem that we're solving is a little bit different, and sometimes it's awkward for us to work so closely with the startup community because we're not solving problems like not knowing when to take a drink of water, which is solved by the Smart Water Bottle Prime. We're not solving problems like having to go to the gas station, which, as we know, is the scourge of human experience, right? Which is being solved by WeFuel, which is on-demand fuel delivery. We're not solving problems like having to make your bed, which is my personal favorite, the Smart Duvet, which is the self-making bed. It just rolls up, so you never have to make your bed again. And if we can have a little bit of fun today, you know, sometimes the problems that are being solved come from a place of a lot of privilege. They're built on a lot of different problems that have been solved to get us to this point. And so it becomes a little bit like startup Mad Lib, blank for blank, you know, like Uber for horses, or Tinder for salad, or Airbnb for smoothies. I'm sure you guys have heard similar language. This is not the problems that we're trying to solve. The problem that Mavuno is solving is the fact that 54 million people in Congo live in extreme poverty and are on the precipice constantly of starvation. To put this another way, if we were to look at a map of the United States, this would be akin to 54 million people is if Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, South Dakota, North Dakota, Minnesota, Wyoming, Montana, Colorado, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Illinois, and Indiana. If all of the people in these states were living in extreme poverty. That's the level of population that we're talking about. So yes, we've got a problem, a big one, an urgent one, and one that is life or death. But we've also got a solution. So what Mavuno does is we're a nonprofit organization that empowers local leaders in Eastern Congo to end extreme poverty in their own communities. And so we organize communities and build businesses at the grassroots level. And this is where we work. This is Congo, the big nation in red. And we work right on the edge of Uganda in a town called Beni. That's where our headquarters is. 83% of our staff is Congolese and works in Congo. There's only 6 of us here in the US. And so we work with 13 partner villages around Beni in Eastern Congo. And the primary vehicle for our work is something called a grassroots organization. And so what we do is we work with communities to create a grassroots organization, and then Mavuno serves as a consultant to the GO. And so here's a photo from one of the grassroots organization meetings from our last trip in July. And the way that we work with the GO is we work across 4 areas to end extreme poverty. The first area is to identify assets. And so we first start by listening to the partner communities to identify what assets they have at their disposal that are not currently being maximized or optimized to end poverty in that community. And so fundamentally, we start by listening. Second, we provide different types of financing to the grassroots organizations. These can be very simple things like asset loans that are used to buy seeds and tools, agricultural inputs. And at the larger scale, we seek to invest in infrastructure that can be used to scale up a commodity. So for instance, we're currently working on a plantain flour initiative, and we're building plantain dryers in different communities that we work with. And so we also seek to scale up commodities and finance those efforts as well. Next, we provide agricultural training. We have an excellent team in Eastern Congo of agricultural experts that are working every day with the communities that we work with and helping them to really hone in on best practices for agriculture so that they're optimizing their crop yields and are able to generate more income. And then finally, we work to provide market access and linkages. And so if you were to think of the area where we work as being at the center of an X, there's basically 4 main roads that go out from the area that we work in. A lot of the communities that we work with, though, are very remote and might not have access to more competitive markets where they could get a better price for their vegetables and crops. And so that can be as simple as providing access to vehicles so that they can then go generate more income and wealth for themselves, their families, and their communities. And so since 2015, we have seen exponential increase in the model. We've seen a lot of success with the work that we're doing. We've seen across participants, land area, harvest, and revenue, 827% to up to 4,000% increase in the work that we're doing. And so it's just been scaling rapidly. Our model has been proven to work, and we're continuing to expand to other villages. And so, while we may not be doing the next sexy thing like a smartphone-powered vape apparatus, which is a real thing, what we are doing is working in Eastern Congo to ensure that an area that has been stricken by poverty and war has new opportunity. We fundamentally believe that business can end poverty, and we believe that it is the Congolese themselves who will make this a reality and create a new future for themselves. And so that is what Mavuno does. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I missed your name. I missed your name.
Alex.
Alex, brother, thank you.
Yes.
So I want to say something first, which is this is the right model to fix poverty, right? Like, I'm sure you guys have looked at like Tom's model. They just destroy infrastructures, right? White, they call it like a white charity, right? So you're empowering people from the bottom up to bring themselves out of poverty, and that works. So I've never heard of Mavuno, but I'm gonna start telling people about this model because you guys are doing it correctly. And you said something that is close to my heart, which is business brings people out of poverty, right? It does.
It does.
Money doesn't, but empowering people and giving them opportunity does. So it looks like initially you're focusing on food, right? So base stuff.
Yes, for now, and that's for a couple reasons. One, Eastern Congo is rich in resources, and it's a problem that needs to be urgently solved. And so when we're talking about ending extreme poverty through business, it also is this dual mutually beneficial action where it also, the population that's surrounding has more food being generated that they can then purchase. And so primarily right now we're focused on food.
So is that consumption-based, or are you prepping for export, or how are you trying to build wealth with that model? Is it just, no, we seriously need to feed people first?
So we have our eye on international export, and our goal is to eventually scale up commodities so that we can have the infrastructure to create international companies. Primarily right now we're piloting a plantain flour company, which has a huge market in the area that we're in. And so there's the enterprise side, and then there's more of the grassroots organization side, which is the local entrepreneurs and business people who are managing their own small businesses, which are primarily crops.
So I think that's awesome. And you said rich in resources. They have a lot of raw materials that can be utilized.
I think. Whoop, not yet. I think.
What number should we call if we want to learn more?
Yes, call now to learn more. I think the last estimate I heard was something like $6 trillion of natural resources lie in Eastern Congo, and it's also it's rich in resources, but it's a country that has been historically exploited in a lot of ways. And so what we're doing is working to empower the local population to take back the reins of the resources.
So do you see this being, like Congo as being a catalyst for other nations that surround the Congo to learn from the model?
Yes, so business has a ripple effect, right? And so what we're doing is we're trying to get the model right. And the model, if it's right, and the philosophy behind it is right, can work essentially anywhere. And so what we're trying to do is, yes, eventually to create a cascading effect of security and sustainability.
So I would also applaud the work you guys are doing. I've done a fair amount of work in South Africa that's has similar challenges and communities of challenges. One of the anxieties I have, and I'm curious about whether you're thinking about this and dealing with this, is lack of a consumption base, right? So, and also leveraging industries or using industries that have that margins are so small that you're talking about 20 to 30 years to lift people out of poverty when you're talking. And by that, quite simply, I mean like agro businesses that are on such a small scale. You're moving. Yes, you may be up to sustain yourself from I have food to eat today, but are they really lifting the economies out? And so I guess my question to you is, where's the consumer base in a country that has 54 million people living in extreme poverty? And then B, are you looking at leveraging the $7 trillion in natural resources to have real significant profit gains that get reinvested to the people of the community? And the example I would give is if you look in the US, is the difference between like Native American tribes that have leveraged their resources to make billions and billions of dollars, I think the Mohegan Sons, for example, versus all of those that are kind of staying at that just above extreme poverty, but still in a poverty level.
Right. That's a great series of questions that I'm going to unpack.
Sorry.
So I think primarily what you're talking about is purchasing power. And so
Absolutely, yeah.
In a country where there's extreme poverty, you're asking, does it make sense to generate a lot of food if no one can buy it? And so there is this sort of chicken and egg problem. I think you are right in that this is something that's going to take time. It doesn't take just 3 years to end extreme poverty for 54 million people. And so what we're primarily looking to do is build up capacity within the communities that we work with over time so that they can then, eventually we don't want them to need us. We don't want Mavuno to be needed. We're not looking to perpetuate the problems that we're trying to solve, which is a problem inherent to a lot of nonprofits and those working in the social space. I feel like I'm trying to remember all of your questions. Did I answer?
You got. So I guess the bigger question is, have you explored what I would call like a big splash policies that leverage the $7 trillion in resources to bring in to bring in wealth creation to these communities that would really lift them out of poverty?
And so to some degree, I don't think that would be sustainable because Eastern Congo is also lacking infrastructure. There's a lot of corruption that can happen there. And so if we were to do a big splash like that, I don't know that necessarily the communities we're working with would be able to handle it at that time. And so it's something that takes time to develop organically, as well as if we're talking about the resources, it would be entirely Congolese-led. We're very aware of the history of Eastern Congo and try to make sure that the work that we do is entirely led by them for developing their own resources. That might not be the most satisfying answer to say I don't fully know yet, but that's the most honest one.
What about setting up capital institutions like banks and things along those lines? I mean, yeah, microloan. I mean, so the microloan model works best when it's owned by the community. So is Mavuno doing anything like that where they could actually the community would begin to own its own capital lending processes?
Yes, we have an eye on that. So right now we're working on getting our microloan programs really tightened up. We're working on really figuring out what that looks like. You know, what does loan repayment look like in an equitable way? What does it look like for participants if there is an issue with loan repayment and things like that? I think at the larger scale, yes, there's a huge need for infrastructure that we are interested to build. I mean, things as simple as roads. So when we're talking about export issues, if it rains really heavily in Eastern Congo, delivery trucks can get stuck on the road for up to a month. And so little cities will form around trucks that have gotten stuck. And so we have a lot of infrastructural issues that we need to address in the long term, and those are things that we're keeping an eye on, but we're also aware that as a fledgling organization with 6 of us here in the US, 30 in Eastern Congo, we're taking it as we can.
Okay, we're going to open it up to the audience. So if you have a question for Alex, please raise your hand.
Going right up front.
So I'm curious, what does Mavuno mean? When I tried to tweet, I noticed several other
Right.
handles.
Yes, so Mavuno is Swahili for harvest. And so there are some like Mavuno churches, and there's another Mavuno organization that is actually quite aligned with the work we do. But that's what it means, it means harvest. And so you can find us online. Mavuno Congo is primarily our handle.
So I did look at your website, and you've done a great job. Among nonprofits, they do various qualities of identifying the issues that are being attacked, and I thought you guys did a great job. So I just want to recommend to the audience here to go look at it, because the level of I don't know how to put it correctly negatively, but the level of lack of development is incredible. You know, somebody sitting here in Kansas City who has never been on the ground would have a hard time trying to understand what you were trying to deal with. And I was particularly impressed by the fact that you are actually starting by organizing people to learn that they can be, in effect, their own municipality or town council or whatever it is that you're talking about. So my questions, now that I've finished with my editorials, is you talked about revenue. Where's that coming from?
That is revenue that's generated from the partners who have worked with Mavuno and created a harvest. And so when we're talking about revenue, we're talking about like one of our partners was able to create 6 tons of tomatoes. And then he took those to market through the market access that we provided with him, and was able to then provide food and shelter and security for 16 people that he helps to take care of.
That's amazing. So how does Mavuno get funded?
Yes, so we have a variety of sources. Primarily, we have a group of private and anonymous donors who are aligned with the work that we do, who help fund our operations. And so we have that side of things. We also have some foundations that we work with who are aligned with our priorities, and we have mutually beneficial arrangements with them. And then we also have a growing recurring monthly donor base where people donate online and are able to have real and immediate impact. And so we have those 3 sources. Primarily, though, we have the major gift side, which is anonymous individuals.
Question right here in the front.
In areas with poverty, like most of the time there's like issues with like confidence and everything. Like how well is your guys' success rate with people from the community coming up and stepping up as a leader?
We've had great success, and we've had success in ways that were unexpected in some ways. In an area, in a country that has probably the highest rape rate in the world, the majority of the people in our grassroots organizations are led by women. And so we're flipping paradigms, and we're also providing infrastructure to those who are already like ambitious and ready to do things. And so it's not a matter of spurring confidence or maybe trying to inspire. People are inspired to end extreme poverty in their communities. We're just providing that little bit of infrastructure that they need.
So if Mavuno was 100% successful, what would the Eastern Congo look like? And like specifically, what about your approach is sustainable?
Right, that's a great question. And I kind of want to circle back to your question as well to answer that one. So you had asked about what does this look like over time? And I think in this context, economic development looks different than we might expect it to look, and it might take longer than we would want it to take. And so to give a concrete example, last month, Nathan Johnson, our VP of Communications over here, and I were in Eastern Congo, and we were traveling through the jungle to one of our villages called Beka. And in Beka, they're primarily, they were a nomadic tribe, colloquially known as Pygmy. You might have heard the name before. And they have settled down over generations, a couple generations, because development has sort of pushed them into a place where they can't be nomadic anymore. And so their housing, though, is essentially huts made of straw. That's their living arrangement. When they work with Mavuno, the revenue that they generate, to our eyes, might not look like a whole lot. They, I think, generated $300 in revenue in their first year working with us. That's a lot of money for a community like Beka, and they were then able to create housing that was made of mud and sticks and were firm structures instead of huts made of straw. And so it looks different than we think it will, and to the untrained eye, poverty kind of all looks the same. And so this takes time to develop, and we're going to be patient with it as it continues to work. And so to your question about what Eastern Congo will look like if we are successful, is that we envision a future where all people in Eastern Congo are able to have safety, security, and prosperity that is created of their own volition. And so that's what we're aiming toward, and that's what our hope and dream is for the work that we do.
Hi. So I remember hearing you say something about benefits between the foundation and you, and I know how a lot of charities and nonprofit organizations tend to get corrupt, and so I was wondering what you're trying to do to make sure that you don't end up like them.
Do you have an example in mind that you're referencing about corruption with nonprofits so I can speak to it?
KCUMB.
I'm sorry?
Years ago, KCUMB was embroiled in a corruption scheme.
So to answer that question, we don't engage in any sort of partnerships at that level unless there's absolute alignment with the work that we do. And so similar to all startups, the one risk that we face is premature scaling. And so we are obviously always excited the most about unrestricted funding, where we can continue to do our programming without any strings attached, and we take that very seriously. But we don't enter into any partnership without first doing a full audit and due diligence around what that's going to mean for the work that we do, and that it will not fundamentally alter what we do. And we, with every decision that we make, with everything that we do, we see the farmer as our boss. And so that's who I work for. I don't work for our board of directors. I don't work for our funders. I don't work for our foundations that help fund our operations. I work for the farmer in Eastern Congo who's waking up every day and walking 2 miles to his cauliflower field and working under the hot sun to provide safety and security for his family. And so that is our ethos with everything that we enter into.
Question in the back. Can you provide some details behind how Mavuno came to be, how you got involved, how you found out about this? Can you just provide some of the backstory about how this came to be?
Yes, I can. So I'm the vice president of marketing. I've been with the organization this is 4 months now. And so it's been quite a wild ride since I started. However, the co-founders were Dan Myatt and David Masomo. Dan Myatt was an explosive ordnance officer in Afghanistan. And so if you've ever seen The Hurt Locker, he was the person going out and defusing bombs. He went on over 300 missions. And during his time in Afghanistan, he saw this really important link between security and opportunity. And so with that in mind, after he left Afghanistan, he was stationed in South Korea and met a Congolese man named David Masomo. And David Masomo is our second co-founder. He grew up in extreme poverty in Eastern Congo and at one point was a forced soldier. And so his view was very similar to Dan's and very intricately tied, where they saw the correlation between the safety and security of a region and the opportunities inherent to the populations in those regions. And so they began talking and just had a really deep connection about their shared experiences and realized that they wanted to do something about it. And because David had so many connections and networks and they both had such a heart for Eastern Congo, they decided to start there and started in the first village in Bunzi in 2014, and it was officially incorporated at that time. And so since then, we've gone on to scale to work with over 13 villages. We went from 100 households that we were working with to now over 900. And over 6,000 people are directly impacted by the work that we do. So that just a quick background.
So I'm a millennial, so I care very deeply about making a dollar and a difference. We have a bunch of Gen Zers here today, and I hear they care even more about making a difference. Can you tell us what you've learned about social entrepreneurship?
Absolutely. We care about making a difference as well. And I think in our context, we're still a very small organization. And so whereas with an organization like maybe the Gates Foundation, where you would give your money and it kind of goes into this black hole, with an organization the size of Mivuno, every single person who gives to our organization has an immediate and real impact. And so something as close as $10 a month goes to provide seeds for one family each month. And so over the course of a year, $10 provides access to seeds and land for 12 families. And so we're talking about very basic things. And to answer your question about social entrepreneurship, there is a very strong link, and I think our generation, and I didn't know that term, Generation Z, is that the new generation? Whoa. Wow. Hi, Generation Z. So I think that the generations that are coming up now, there's a hunger for that, and I would encourage you guys to continue to pursue that. And come talk to myself, come talk to Nathan, raise your hand. He's our VP of Communications, and we'd love to talk to you more about the work that we do.
As specific as you are comfortable getting, what metrics do you report on to your funders year after year?
We report on essentially everything. We are as transparent as possible. And so part of that transparency means that being transparent about the fact that collecting baseline data around extreme poverty takes time. And so actually this November is actually the first full feedback loop that we're gonna have, where we can then have a comparison of data for families and communities that have started working with Mivuno and where they are now. And so we provide metrics around harvest yields, revenue, land usage. We even get as detailed, like we know every single person that's involved in our communities with us, and the funders and the board of directors and everyone that's part of our organization has access to that data as well.
All right, final question. This is what does we as a community do to help you?
Yes, this is where my phone number comes in handy. So literally, I want you to call me. I want you to text me. Take out your phone right now and enter in my phone number into your phone and save it as Alex Mivuno, because we're looking to get connected with people in Kansas City and the Midwest in general. There's only 2 of us here in Kansas City running operations here. And we found that Kansas City, St. Louis, the larger Midwestern area is much more civically minded with their philanthropy, which is awesome for this city and is much needed. We're looking to get in touch with and get connected with people who are internationally minded with their philanthropic efforts. And so we're looking to build that network up. And so reach out to me, send me a text, call me, and we can grab coffee and connect. So that's how you can help, is by first going to our website, mivuno.org, and then reaching out, and we'd love to connect with you.
Big round of applause for Alex. Thank you very much. That's it for today. Please join us next week when we have AdSwapper and Per Diems Against Poverty. So thank you, everybody. Have a good day.